It's Tuesday, the 19th of May, 2015, and this is the audio podcast, episode 152, Barbecue Base Spin.
Hello, I'm Samuel Freeman, that was Scott Hewitt, and we are joined again by Adam Yanch.
Yay! Hi guys.
Hello.
Yes, I'm back to join the audio podcast. Of course, you can head to theaudiopodcast.co.uk/show/152 to read the notes of today's show, which also includes links to the things we're talking about. Handy, huh?
Wow.
And this week we will be talking about some news and some plunder. Yep, and maybe feature next week. I have a feature for next week. So, committing to another week of this already. There we go. Let's get into this week's news.
News.
So news indeed. So, first up in our news, perhaps, Tracktion 6 was released, and not only was it released, but it was released with Linux support. How cool is that?
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so hold on, what's Tracktion again? I get mixed up between Tracktion and Tractor, I think.
So, Tracktion is, as it says itself, the musician's door.
Oh. So anyone who uses any other DAW is not a musician?
Yes, basically. That's
by implication.
By implication, that is absolutely correct, yeah.
Okay.
So Tracktion 6 came out of the UK, was a kind of a small two-man development team, eventually kind of, if I remember correctly, established an association with Mackie, and I think, if my memory serves me correctly, it was the door you got for free with the kind of, what I like to think of the weird set of Mackie interfaces that existed like in kind of 2006, 2008. Those dates are coming out of my head, but you remember when Mackie kind of went into interfaces for a couple of years.
And then it was like, nah, let's just go back to speakers and mixing desks.
Yeah. And this was the product they put alongside it. And you can still get it. Now, the cool thing about Tracktion is version 4 is free now. So it's always a version, the version which is a couple old is always free. I have a cat going mad. Sorry about that. A couple of versions older is generally available for free. So at the moment, now you can get version 4 for free, with version 6 having just been released. Though, to be honest, I think it's $60 or something like that. It's, it is like kind of, I like to say, in the Reaper price point, shall we say. Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's kind of in the Reaper territory by now, supporting Linux as well as Windows and Mac. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and in fact, Linux is starting to get some DAW support, some proper DAW support, because as much as we like, Ardor, it's always a bit of a hard push, but now you've got Tracktion, you've got Reaper, you've got Bitwig, those are available for the Linux platform, so that's very good.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So other cool features inside Tracktion, it comes with Melodyne support. It's been baked into it since Tracktion 5, so that's pretty cool. Yeah. And it is. Well, you sometimes feel bad, don't you, when you say these kind of things. I'm saying it is kind of maybe creeping up on terms of features. It's a lot, I'm saying. I think I mentioned in some of the remarks here, I'm having computer fail in every possible way here right now. But it has things like dedicated automation tracks and composition groups, and even some kind of time tool kind of features have now been put into it as well. So it's much nearer feature complete with version 6 than it was perhaps with the earlier versions, and at that sort of price point, it's a pretty cool option, I think.
It is. It looks pretty slick. I just want to correct my previous comment because I've just said it. Yeah, Reaper is not supporting Linux actually. Sorry.
Oh, I thought it was.
I thought it was too, but then I kind of had a doubt in my mind and checked, and
because when you first said it, I was like, is Reaper on Linux? And I was like, seems like it should be.
But there you go. Like it's not. But Tracktion is, especially Tracktion 6.
Okay.
There we go.
And you can head to tracktion.com to get more information about Tracktion 6, and you can also, that's where you can get Tracktion 4. You have to fill in a form, and I guess they send you a link to the download. But yeah, check it out.
Pretty cool. Excellent stuff. All right then. it was it's a slow week in news. That's all I can say. It was tough. I looked everywhere I possibly could to this end of the news that is not related to the streaming of audio. There we go. So first of all, I found a great article up on Digital Trends which suggests a future without iTunes, but rather Beats instead. Could this be the end of iTunes? Do we care? Yes, probably. Well, maybe.
iTunes does more than provide music access and collection management and such like that in the store. It is currently the default and only synchronizing software for iThings.
And well, this is one of the major criticisms of iTunes, though, as I've seen it of late. Basically, it's this kind of grab bag of things. It used to be a more focused piece of software, but it's also the way that you access the iTunes store for music and for videos and movies and whatnot. And the problem is that it's been a bit rudderless. The development of it has been rudderless for several years now. And have you guys tried iTunes 12? Probably not, because you're still on 10.6. So
I know I have a Mac Mini downstairs now, which may be on. I'm not sure what version it's on. I tend to do the software updates on that, although it pains me. I let it carry on.
I did. I looked up iTunes 12 because I kind of held back. I got reminded every day to update it, and I couldn't do anything about that notification. And I finally jumped in, and it's not too bad, but it's like, why did you change it like this? That's the main thing people say about iTunes 12 is it gets rid of the sidebar, but why bother? Why change the interface like that? And anyway, we've kind of gone off the topic here.
Well, I think the point is that iTunes is not just the music store, it is all these other things, but the reason it is because the original iPod, you plugged it in, it synchronized, and it was a focused thing. You could buy music, you could put the music on your device, and that was that, and you could import your music. And then when the iPhone was added to that and the iPad, they just were created to synchronize in exactly the same way with the same software, and everything was just tacked onto it, and the ad for video and things was all just piled in to this thing called iTunes, which now the name doesn't really have any relation to anything.
No, and they've been moving away because the new Photos app is called Photos on the Mac.
Yep.
It used to be called iPhotos. So I wonder if they're going to move away. The problem is that iTunes needs to be sorted out, or they need to decide. I know it's a wider problem I'm finding with Apple is that they're redesigning their software and making it worse in the process, and like removing features and making it harder to use and all of this, and it just frustrates the heck out of me because they used to make such decent software as well as decent hardware.
I think that's very true. I will go out on a limb here. I was gonna blog about this, but I didn't work out whether I put it on the audio podcast at my own personal site. So I haven't finished writing it yet, but I'll work it out once I get there. But I reckon that iTunes, Adam, I think iTunes will disappear and it will be gone, and it will be replaced by something. I would hope more of the original iTunes feel, in that it will purely be the place where your music is, where you can buy your music and your music exists, and they will, but they won't call it iTunes anymore. At that point, it will cease to exist, and that will be the Beats endorsed item, and it will come with, it's going to come with deep integration into. Even deeper integration that's inside iTunes, but properly set out into Apple TVs and all that sort of stuff as well. Because iTunes is the classic.
Will they?
iTunes is the classic kind of absolute Apple mess now, where it's. There's loads of cool features. I quite often think to myself, hey, it'd be cool if you could do this, and then discover that iTunes does do that. But to know that you do that, you have to know that you can do a contextual click on something you didn't even know you can click on, and this sort of, these sort of problems happen. So I think they're going to thin it out, and then they're going to put something else in place. And to be honest, I reckon the best solution for them is to abandon the idea of the, you plug your device in and you sync it against a, I know that you don't actually have to do that anymore, but it's still the kind of the fundamental kind of basis of it is that you kind
do have to do it.
This plugged in.
I have not managed to get my iPad to synchronize all my music from my computer without it failing in some way and sync it with the cable. The wireless syncing is kind of broken, I think. But the question is, if they did replace iTunes or something else, would that something else be to the detriment of people who collect music rather than or buy music somewhere else and import it, rather than people who buy it from iTunes or stream it from Beats?
Oh, you can just imagine them removing the CD import feature, can't you? Because who has optical things anyway? And then...
Well, I can see them doing that. I can see them closing doors because there was... Oh, were you guys talking about in last week's show something about Apple and Spotify? Apple making it harder for Spotify to get music somehow, or a free tier, or maybe I was reading about that. Because you were talking about Tidal.
Allegations of competitive bullying in the streaming license realm or something.
And Apple were using their weight with the record companies to force other their competitors in the streaming space to have to do something that they didn't want to do, effectively.
Allegedly, something like that.
Allegedly, if that's what I'm saying, there's been lots of stuff. It's been widely expected that the next attempt at Apple getting into streaming audio and the Apple iTunes tidy up and fix is going to happen at WWDC, and they've been negotiating to put that in place. And apparently there's a lot of... The chances of it having worked are kind of... It's very up in the air. I personally think it will happen then, and they will have the announcement on it for a couple of reasons. And I think they've made some concessions to make it happen. So they originally talked about how they wanted the streaming service to be $5 a month, and that would wipe out everybody. They then said, hey, we want to get to $8 a month, and people were like, oh, well, we're not sure if that's going to work either. And it was now suggested that actually $10 a month would be the number that they would go for. So the idea being that you will be able to stream whatever you want for $10 a month out of iTunes, and that will be done. That will be delivered using what they purchased as Beats Music. And you could probably go with the Beats Music brand, but I'm not sure they would do, actually. I'm saying, can you see Apple turning over such a kind of fundamental part of what they do to a bought-in tertiary brand? And Beats is quite a polarizing brand. It's not really, in my, I know for other people it isn't the case, but in my mind, Beats isn't the name of quality. Beats is the name of, it's kind of probably even slightly ripped off there, kind of thing. as a kind of thing.
Well, the other thing that I think I read yesterday, and it links in with our next news story, in fact, is that Apple are allegedly holding up the release of the Tidal app through their app verification process, because supposedly a Beats app is coming in June at WWDC. I don't know. To be honest, I haven't really basically, as long as Apple's skullduggery doesn't impact Bandcamp and the other ways, the basic ways that I get music myself, then maybe I don't mind so much. But I'm concerned by Apple because they've got a lot of power, and they're still just a corporation in the end, aren't they? They like to make it seem like they're all friendly and customer facing, but they're still basically out there to make loads of money, and I don't trust them so much.
Oh yeah, it's it's probably we are in the middle of the streaming wars. I think that's how we should refer to this for now. We should refer to it as the streaming wars, because Spotify are running a promotion, aren't they? They were, after it being reported that Spotify Free was probably going to disappear. Not only did they come out and say no, it's not going to disappear, but they're now running an incredibly aggressive promotion, aren't they? So
Oh, is it like 3 months for $1 or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, what I mean, they're coming out aggressive because I think I think Spotify realized that if Apple turn up and drop, because let's face it, if Apple wanted to, they could give everybody a year of Beats for free.
Yeah.
And you can't imagine there being anybody else left after a year. I'm saying even like, you know, even something like Tidal, which is obviously built on a very kind of artist-centric approach, shall we say, if you want to a better phrase. But even something like Tidal won't be able to survive a year's worth of Apple for free. Now,
well, I was reading a Forbes article about how they think Tidal is doomed already, and the basis of Tidal, the people behind it are kind of a bit not dodgy, but I don't think they won't win people's hearts because of what it is. They weren't listening to the actual market when they created the thing that they wanted to create. So Tidal might not be a problem anyway.
Well, I think Tidal's the classic example, isn't it, of a group of people who decide how they would like a system to work and implement that system. And the great thing about kind of celebrity culture is that there are a group of people who have this celebrity status, which means that they have the impression that they actually will be able to make the thing happen in the way they want it to happen. So that's what they do. And so that for me is exactly what Tidal is. It's another one of these moments where you have, you know, that group of people attempting to re-establish the norm based around what they think it should be, and it turns out that that's not actually acceptable to them. You know, the majority doesn't agree with that approach, which is entirely how commercial operations work, isn't it? And I think because there is, I think Adam was alluding to it, but the Verge had a great little feature on a concert that Tidal did for its for any of its subscribers, in which JayZ I think he freestyles raps about Spotify and YouTube, which I thought was which is quite funny. If you haven't seen the video, it's quite funny. But saying that's a cool feature. Tidal, it's an awesome idea to have something like, you know, we'll do free concerts for our subscribers, we'll do deeper artist engagement, we'll do stuff like that. And obviously Tidal are uniquely positioned to do that right now, being artist owned and artist driven, and also the fact they're pushing it really hard, so therefore, you know, that's going to be the kind of thing you want to do. And to be honest, I'm sure Tidal could probably do pretty well if it was, you know, I mean, if it was done in such a way that if you weren't a Tidal subscriber, then you can't buy tickets to our gigs, then you're probably, you know what I mean, for the next 6 months they'll probably be able to drive a lot of subscribers. But, you know, I mean, you can't imagine that's going to be
maybe. I wonder if
a long-term approach, is it?
But at what point does it become that is an anti-competitive business practice or something like that? You don't tend to hear about it in the music business, but, you know, in computing and in technology, there have been quite a few companies to heal by governments under anti-competitive business practice.
I mean, in a bygone age before the audio podcast, there was a lot of like label buyout. There was lots of independent labels being bought up by the bigger labels, of which there's, what, 3 in the world? And there was talk of anti-competitiveness around that.
Mm.
Well, there was the point in the kind of mid to late 90s, wasn't there, where we were kind of closing in on 18 pounds a CD album at one point, and that was, you know, quite clearly not the naturally arrived on price.
Well,
because I don't know if you remember, but you would go into our price. How about that? Ooh, there you go. So if you're younger than us, then feel free to ask somebody older than you what our price was. But you know what I mean. And every CD in the whole place was every CD single and every CD album was exactly the same price. They were, you know what I mean. So that's
no wonder they didn't last long. It wasn't their price at all, was it?
No, exactly. Very poor, but very well done there, Sam. I like what you did there. Well, there we go. You know what? I think we have to admit that the streaming wars are going to probably dominate the time for a while now. There aren't really any major releases in the can as far as kind of doors or hardware updates right now. There's nothing really kind of trickling that I'm getting rumor of is likely to be even announced actually for the next couple of months. But I think we are going to have this ongoing redefinition of how music is going to be, of the consumption of music and how it's going to work. So, you know, I mean, let's keep
Well, we have to keep on that for our next story, which it's got kind of. Well, you basically have mentioned this story already.
Yeah, we've done it.
Which is JayZ and Tidal. JayZ rapping about Spotify and YouTube. I didn't know if there was any more you wanted to add to that.
No, not really.
Well,
there we go.
There you go. That's the end of the news.
So Adam, what's on your camera today? It looks to be like a CD player, and by default I would probably guess a Sony one, but it actually doesn't. It does not look like a Sony one to me.
You're close, but it's not actually a CD player.
Oh, okay. In that case, is it a DAT machine?
It is a DAT machine.
It is.
And who's well known for DAT machines?
Tascam.
And I mean, I don't know if you know the part numbers, their model numbers. So I don't know whether it's worth asking.
A model number from a slightly out of focus shot of an open stop and possibly, is it a rewind button?
Well, yeah, obviously there's a rewind button. Well, hold on, let me move this back a bit.
I'm just saying, you know what I mean? I'm saying it's like we're going to be getting this could become a feature by which we gain legendary status. They're like, oh yeah, you can just show them the you know, just a letter from the front panel and they'll tell you what it is. That'd be a great thing.
If I move it too far over here, you'll see.
Oh yeah, okay.
What it is. So
yeah, that's all we need. That's all we need. Just a picture of the loading tray is all we need. We'll be able to get it from the loading tray alone.
Yeah. Is there a? Well, I couldn't see the proportions of the loading tray, which is why I guess CD, but obviously not. And you know, I can tell it was. I'm going to go with. Is it the Tascam DA20?
It's a DA20 Mark II.
Oh, I was even going to say Mark II, but I thought I'll edge my bets by not saying the Mark II. There we go.
Very well done, Sam. That is impressive. I think our anybody who watches this show has to be impressed by the effort we just pulled off there. That was pretty solid.
For the audio podcast where we look at pictures and describe what we see.
Well, it's good for the non-YouTube listeners, yeah. So, I mean, that's the feature, really, for this week. So we might as well just go straight into the plunder.
Arg.
Indeed. So first up, first up in the plunder this week, Adam.
Yeah, it is.
All right then.
Okay, so Ars Technica kind of put this into an article last week, which is a new startup, which is a kind of combination between Kickstarter, Bandcamp, and a vinyl pressing plant. It's called Qrates. I mean, I don't know how you pronounce that. It's such a silly name. Qrates?
I read it. I saw it as Qrates.
I have always read it as Qrates, which doesn't. Qrate as into curate.
You've got to say Qrates because it's important you type Q at the start of the word, otherwise the Google search doesn't work, does it?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so
for our listeners, it must
the jury
be
is out. Yeah, the jury is out as to how it's pronounced, but it's spelt Qrates effectively. And so their idea is that that if you want to distribute your music on vinyl, which of course has made a decent comeback over the last few years, then why not use their service, which kind of unifies the crowdfunding aspect of Kickstarter with the digital distribution element of Bandcamp, and they sort out the pressing of vinyl. The Ars Technica article also kind of mentions the importance of getting your music specifically mastered for vinyl because of the limitations of the medium, shall we say.
Cool.
So yeah, you know, you can head to the notes, you can have a look at that, and if you're interested, Qrates. Qrates. Cool. The next item of plunder is on GitHub, and it's from Cycling74, and it's called Max-Tests, and it's a series of patches for testing that stuff works. I have to confess that Scott posted this, not me. I'm guessing. I don't know much more than that about it.
That was actually, I saw it, I thought that's really interesting, and then have been far too busy to do anything other than say those words out loud. But yeah.
Okay.
I feel you got the essence of it correct, though. It is the internal test suite that they use to check that objects and patches have the functionality as intended, and they're now making that available, which is kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. So it's an in-house thing they open. Very good.
And interestingly, I started using Max again recently, and I got back into it pretty quick. We're all kind of used to Max, us three, but I'm still on Max 6, so I haven't updated to 7 yet. So I mean, there you go.
Well,
and
we're
then,
on Max. Oh, go on.
No, you go.
I was just going to say with the I did buy 6 and the jump, but because there's 1 or 2 objects in the jitter realm that were not available in 5 that I wanted to use, but that project didn't really go anywhere in the end, and so I've been back on using 5 for multiple reasons. Although I am quite interested to spend more time in 7, I think. Yeah. But Max 5 is perfectly adequate for most things.
Yeah.
Although increasingly difficult to get if you don't already have it, because it's now 2 versions old. To get access to it is quite tricky for new people to Max.
Max, I did actually have I came across I was assisting with a performance a couple of weeks ago, and we had some really weird behavior going on, and we resolved it by installing Max 5 on a fairly modern machine and using it. And it was that classic moment where when you run old software on current hardware and it's just amazingly fast.
Yeah,
it's like, wow. This is
what it should have been like originally.
Yeah, you're like, wow, I'm gonna patch in 5 because this is amazing, and then I'll go up to the modern one for the extra objects when I need them. It's just it's quite funny like that as a. Yeah. There you go. Anyway, that's for people who are like, oh, I wonder how they did that. We made abstractions in the 5 build folder that represent the correct inlets and outlets for the missing objects, so you can open your, so you can like text copy and paste in and out that way around, which is there you go.
Yeah.
Cunning.
That's a Scott top tip there. Ooh.
Scott top tip, and then to round out the plunder, it's iZotope masking with Ozone guide.
Oh, that's me. It's a mastering of Ozone guide, isn't it? That's very pro. Anyway, but we all know this happens every year. So every year, iZotope, release a mastering guide which goes along with Ozone, and it's arrived. There we go.
Get the PDF, get the book, get the ebook rather.
Yeah, man.
I wonder if one day they'll create O-books.
O-books.
Just specifically for Ozone.
Oh no! Well, no, I was just saying O-books because we've already got e-books and we already have iBooks, and O is the next one along. So, yeah.
Are we assuming that A-book already was like the default? Was A-book was the?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they didn't like that very much. It's hard to say, really.
A-book's quite hard to say, yeah.
Yeah, because it's confusing. It's like I have an A-book. Don't you mean I have a book? No, I have an A-book.
I want to make something called A-book now, just so that situation can occur.
So the question is, how long can we just talk about nonsense before we?
Well, it's the end of the show. We've got we haven't had to drag it out. Oh, we didn't say that. You're supposed to say it's the end of the show and then talk rubbish.
Okay, it's the end of the show. Let's talk rubbish.
It is the end of the show. Don't forget, if you want to, you can subscribe to our, as of yet, very rarely, but actually, as of yet, never to have been used mailing list if you want to.
We guarantee maybe never email you at all.
It's a low traffic list. It's awesome, man. No risk.
It's the best mailing list of all time.
Indeed. So I'd like that. Listen, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, those various things. If you want to contact us, the best way is probably email, I think.
show@theaudiopodcast.co.uk.
Yeah. And I have to say, for show 150, 2 shows ago, I thought it was kind of nice that the 2 originators of the show had were on the mic uncluttered by the later edition of Adam Yanch, who is signing off now from this show. But we'll be back next week.
Excellent stuff. We'll be back probably next week at some point with show 153, but that was show 152 of the audio podcast. Bye from Scott.
Bye from Sam. Bye.
Bye.